The musical chairs as well in Bayelsa. Is it a case of cascading waters, or is it water under the bridge? And protests at the APC Secretariat, symphony or cacophony? These are our guiding thoughts today. The eclectic political ensemble which focuses on the nation's political scene. I am Fisai Ogunfuyi. Welcome. Okay, let's just start from close here in Abuja. The pictures and sounds coming from the Secretariat of the All Progressive Congress here in Abuja is that of protests. The protest is by some groups within the party against the national chairman of the party, Comrade Adams Oshiomhole. This is day 2 of the protest, and members of different groups converged on the National Secretariat Monday, looking determined to drive home their demands to the party hierarchy. That's the sound coming from there. Now joining us to give a second view of the protest is Victor Oshoke, former executive director of media to Comrade Adam Oshiomhole when the comrade was governor of Edo State. Thank you for joining us.
Yes. Thank you. Good afternoon.
What exactly is happening?
Well, what can I say? I think it has not been a good week for the APC. I mean, with the judgment in Bayelsa. And I think naturally some people are looking for a scapegoat because the people are angry about the judgment. And so I feel they just want to blame, they are looking for someone to blame. And who do they blame naturally? Because he's the national chairman. But when you look at what is happening, this has nothing to do with the national chairman. It has nothing to do with leadership. It has to do with perhaps a court judgment, which this is not the first time a court judgment is causing crisis all over the country. So why are some people trying to seize upon this unfortunate event to call for the removal of the national chairman? It shocks everybody that that is the direction they're looking at. This is supposed to be a time that APC is supposed to be united to ask for a correct judgment. There is perceived injustice in this judgment.
Since it's still subject, and of course some of the cases are still being, they're still trying to look for a legal room. Let me ask you, perhaps because you are close to the comrade himself, he's not a stranger to protests.
Yeah.
But this time the protests are directed at him. So how is it from your camp?
Well, the protests, first of all, the protests are questionable. Because I didn't see any of them producing an ID card that they are really APC members. You have to be very careful giving space to people who are obviously sponsored to protest, to further the agenda of some other groups. Because I believe not the people who are protesting there that really want Oshiomhole to go. There are people that want Oshiomhole to go for their own selfish interest. They just capitalized on this judgment to recruit some people whose membership of the party is questionable, because I have not seen, for instance, none of them who protested. No, among those people, there were people underage children in that protest. If you look at the picture as well, there are children who are supposed to be in school there, who are supposed to be in skills acquisition centers, protesting against the national chairman. Come on, those are not APC members. They've not shown. There's no evidence there to prove that those people who protested are truly APC members.
All right, since we have so many things to do on the show, let's not belabor it, but finally, are there internal mechanisms to resolve some of these perhaps misunderstandings and protests, as you succinctly put it?
Of course, there is a National Reconciliation Committee going on within the party. They are going to all states. They are not only to settle the crisis involving states in some states, they also have to reconcile the crisis even within the leadership or wherever, or people who are not satisfied with the leadership of the party. Those are part of the reconciliation efforts. And I believe that everybody should wait for this committee to carry out its duty, to go around the country, to see where there are issues within the party. Oshiomhole is not the first national chairman of APC. Oshiomhole, crisis within the party is not starting with Oshiomhole. It has always been that you don't end with Oshiomhole. This is what we must understand. That in times like this, unity, coming together to say, was this judgment right? I mean, this is not the time for anybody to call for the removal of the national chairman. Let first of all fight the common enemy. Then we can come within and ask, okay, what is the problem within our party? That's what I think.
All right, I hope you see me as a friend.
Of course, you are a friend. You are not one of the protesters.
Let's move on the show. Thank you very much, Mr. Shoke, for joining us on Political Update. The Federal High Court in Abuja has restrained the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, from deregistering 31 out of the 74 political parties earlier asked by the commission. Olabode Arewa has details.
The Federal High Court in Abuja on Monday restrained the Independent National Electoral Commission from deregistering the 31 political parties on the grounds that the parties' application for a restraining order was not opposed by INEC. The 31 political parties and 2 others had filed an application on the 30th of October 2019, expressing the fear that they were going to be deregistered by INEC in violation of the law. While their suit was pending, INEC went on to deregister 74 political parties, including 31 of the 33 plaintiffs. Delivering a ruling on the plaintiffs' application, Justice Anwuli Chikere held that INEC failed to file a counter-affidavit to oppose the claims of the plaintiffs. Although INEC, through his lawyer Taminu Inuwa SAN, claimed that the electoral umpire was not served with the processes filed by the plaintiffs, the judge noted that there was proof in the cause file that INEC had indeed been served. The judge ruled that since no counter-affidavit was filed, the facts sworn to in the affidavit in support of the application remained unchallenged, undisputed, and deemed to be true. The Attorney General of the Federation and INEC are the 2 respondents in the matter. The court has adjourned the matter till February 27, 2020 for hearing in the substantive suits. The plaintiffs in the matter are the Advanced Congress of Democrats, filing on behalf of 30 other political parties. In Abuja, Olabode Arewa, NTA News.
Meanwhile, the Inter-Party Advisory Council, IPAC, has reacted to the ruling.
We will not, as a council, go on a protest that will endanger peace and prosperity of this council. And that is why our law-abiding people, we went to court. And we thank God that the Temple of Justice gave us justice.
IPAC President Peter Ahmed says the High Court ruling of Monday, February 17, restraining INEC from deregistering the political parties is a win-win situation for democracy and the judiciary. IPAC, he explains, will continue to have faith in the nation's judiciary.
INEC talk about the largeness of the ballot paper. What we should do is that we will engage more in education and sensitization. That we must be able to also look that parties develop along ideological line, not based on chapter 2 of the Constitution. And we are willing, as a people, to defend the Nigerian Constitution to the letter.
While calling on political leaders to always remain on the side of the law, IPAC restates that an opportunity still lies ahead of the 74 political parties affected to prove their strength in the various states' local government elections. In Abuja, Timothy Yusuf, NTA News.
All right, joining us now is the INEC National Chairman for Information and Voter Education, Mr. Festus Okoye. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
First of all, have you been served now, and what's the situation?
Well, we have not received a copy of the court order, and we've not been served with a copy of the court order. So we don't know the context and the parameters on which the ruling was given. So up to this particular moment, we've not been served.
Let's create a scenario. If you're been served, what happens? What would be the fate of the 31 parties? What happens after that?
Well, you see, the 74 political parties have been deregistered.
Yes.
And that deregistration has already taken place. And it was because the 33 political parties that went to court are aware that the registration has taken place. That was why on the 14th day of February 2020, they filed an application before the same court asking the court to reverse their deregistration. So the act has already been completed, and because the act has already been completed, that was why the court adjourned the matter to the 27th day of February for accelerated hearing and for definite hearing. So the act has already been completed. But one other thing you need to know is that the political parties that went to court on the basis of the fact that the 2019 general elections has not been concluded, that it was not conclusive and democratic. And based on the fact that they claim that it's not conclusive and democratic, they now want the court they want the commission to tarry a while and base its judgment on a futuristic projection on what they are going to win in future.
Especially the local government elections in several states that have not been concluded.
Yes, I understand that. But you must understand that the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended, is the fundamental law of the land. The day the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria assented to the fourth alteration to the Constitution, it came into force automatically. So Section 225A of the Constitution says that the Independent National Electoral Commission shall have the power, mandatory, to register political parties that no longer meet the constitutional threshold for their registration. In other words, if tomorrow the commission discovers that a political party no longer maintains an office in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, we can deregister that particular political party. Furthermore, it says that if a political party has not met a threshold in relation to winning a number of seats in the National Assembly, governorship, state assemblies, or has not even won 25% of the threshold votes cast in a particular state in a presidential election, that we can deregister such a political party. So the Constitution is talking about elections that had already taken place,
not that were projected.
Not projected elections. And that's some of them are saying, oh, in fact, it's in their writ. If not because there were irregularities in the 2019 elections, we will have won some seats. For me, that is really preposterous. And the Constitution is not designed that way. All the election petitions have already been determined by the various courts. So the issue of whether the 2019 election is conclusive and democratic is no longer an issue. What is an issue is, one, the political parties that are protesting, they should ask them, did all of you meet the constitutional threshold in terms of keeping to the terms of your registration? Two, did you win any number of seats, or did you meet the vote percentage projection in the Constitution? If any of them has met it, we will definitely not tamper with those ones. Two of the parties that claim that they got an injunction were not deregistered. The Labour Party was not deregistered, and the African Democratic Congress.
Is it a claim or they got an injunction?
Well, I've not seen, so I can still regard it as a claim. They were not deregistered. So some of the 33 political parties in court, two of them were not deregistered by the commission. So what is their gross in court?
Okay, so we will continue to ask these questions as the year continues. Hopefully, we will continue to have very fruitful discussions as far as the parties are concerned, because we want every ideology to be captured so that Nigerians can express.
Yes, we want every ideology to be captured, but the spirit and intent of the Constitution is that a political association can exist, mobilize people, build up structures before applying for registration. The moment you apply for registration, that means you are ready to be for political power. If you are not ready to be for political power, you should not apply, because the political space is not for learning and it's not for testing the ground. If you are ready to be for political power, if you are ideologically ready and committed, you can ask for registration. If we find out that you are no longer ready, we relegate you to a political association. You go out and keep on building your structure. When you are ready, you can come back.
I know that political update, of course, is not up for a relegation. Thank you very much, Mr. Felix Okoye from the Independent National Electoral Commission. Now, I will take a little breather in our series on synergy between the three arms of government. Our House leader, Adodogua, joined us last week to share his thoughts. Thereafter, we will go to listening some tunes from outside the Supreme Court right here in Abuja.
In my last engagement with you here, we were looking at these angles and how so many other things that are now like proactive reforms between as far as the relationship between the executive and the legislature is concerned. We look at them as reformative because a lot of other things we were doing, it's like they were very destructive. Some of them were distracting, and a lot of them at the end they tend to be unproductive, and at the end you see it's like there's nothing to benefit from as a system. And based on the legislative agenda of the present leader of the House of Representatives, who is the speaker, of course, Right Honorable Femi Bajabiamila, we took a lot of things so that we will now do business not in the usual manner of doing business. And some of those things that we considered as not necessary, even when as they pertain to our basic or our statutory responsibility as members of the House of Representatives. Those things that are very unnecessary, we overlook them to fast track a better relationship between the legislature as an institution and indeed with the executive arm of government. And one other thing that maybe people need to know, the fact that we observe the principles of separation of power, it does not mean the legislature is distinctly independent or is an independent government. No. The executive, the fact that they implement policies and programs of government based on the legislations made available for them by the legislature, does not mean the executive alone can be addressed as government, which in most cases you find the press and some other people say, government. When you talk of government, Pisayo, government is the trinity, the triple existence of the three statutory arms of government, and no one of them can act independent of the other and call itself an action by government. So we decided to make sure that the kind of relationship we hold, despite the supervisory responsibility allocated to us by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, is one that must be of connective operations. Let us be operating on the same page. Where we need to collaborate, we collaborate. Where we need to corroborate, we corroborate. And first of those things that we have achieved now, the returning to the January-December budget cycle is only one of the benefits we got because of this relationship. Because in most cases, when you find a situation that after passing the Appropriation Act, the money bill, the legislature has to create an addendum to say, this bill is to commence from the day of signing of the budget to the next 12 years. And in the end, you find a situation whereby 2019 budget will overlap into 20.
You meant 12 months.
I meant 12 months, yes. But I mean 12 months. Okay. That a budget, at the end of every budget law, at the end of every money bill, which is the Appropriation Act, the legislature has to make an addendum, a proviso, at the end of the budget, like a conditional statement, that the budget starts to work as from the time the president signs it and to the next 12 months. And when you now say the budget will end till the next 12 months, and you find a situation whereby 2019 or 2018 budget overlaps to the next year, sometimes to even January, sometimes to June, July, or even August of the coming year, it doesn't make sense. A budget of a preceding year going into more than 50% of the coming new year, in which you also need to have another appropriation. I think if you look at this, it doesn't work well. So the budget cycle that we have now reverted to now begin January and end December is part of those byproducts, some of the successes we have made as a result of this very cordial and good relationship that is existing between the House and indeed by the executive arm of government. I will continue to really forge ahead. We'll continue to bring up some of those things that really put us in discrepancies. Where we had discrepancies, we will look at all these gray areas and make sure that at every point of our interaction with the executive of government, with the executive arm of government, we must make sure we create some kind of fluid kind of relationship. But at the end, we will not for any reason compromise the statutory responsibility of the legislature as being independent.
Now, two major verdicts were expected today from the Apex Court, but interested parties will have to wait until the 2nd of March. Our judiciary correspondent Vera Chimumba gives us an update now. quiet. We couldn't quite get Vera right there. But meanwhile, indigents of Imo State have called for peace and calm while the Apex Court continues to untie the conundrum there. While we wait for signals from there, let's revisit some of the issues we've discussed today. Earlier, of course, we had the Commissioner for Information and Voter Education coming to discuss the deregistering of political parties and what would happen, of course, when eventually INEC is served. Of course, we also brought you stories concerning, of course, the protest out there at the APC Secretariat. Will also continue to update you. Of course, our guest for the week was the House Leader, Alassane Adodogwa, who joined us last week to share his thoughts, and of course we hoped to bring you an update on the adjournment of the cases in the Supreme Court as concerns Zamfara State as well as Imo State. But of course we couldn't quite reach our correspondent, judiciary correspondent Vera Chinwomba out there at the Supreme Court. That is political update for today. NT's eclectic political ensemble. We'll be back on Friday to give you the very best of political news, reviews, previews, and interviews. And of course, keep on watching the Nigerian Television Authority, where we continue to give you undiluted, of course, first and up-to-date news. My name is Mr. Ogunfi. Thanking you for staying tuned. All the best. Enjoy the rest of your week.